Yo, what is up guys? Delboy here, aka Blue Collar Sports TV. Hopefully you guys are doing well. If you're new here, smash that subscribe button, hit the like, all of that good stuff. So, a quick prediction for Sam Eggington versus Ted Cheeseman. This fight goes down on the 1st of August and it is part of Matchroom's fight camp taking place in Brentwood at the Matchroom headquarters. In my opinion, this is a solid fight. And the card in general is a pretty good first card back for Matchroom. I feel like I've bashed Matchroom and Eddie Hearn quite a lot recently, but this first card back, given the circumstances, I think is pretty solid in all honesty. And the main event is a fight I'm looking forward to actually. I certainly think it's going to be a fan-friendly affair, and should be fireworks. Anyway, let's get into this fight. We will start with a brief tale of the tapes. Sam Eggington has a record of 28 wins, 6 defeats, 0 draws. 17 of those 28 wins coming by way of knockout. Ted Cheeseman, he has a record of 15 wins, 2 defeats, 1 draw. 9 of those 15 wins coming by way of knockout. Both of these guys are still fairly young. Sam Eggington is 26 years old. Ted Cheeseman is 24 years old. Both guys are orthodox fighters, and both guys are of a similar size. Sam Eggington is listed as 5'11", whereas Ted Cheeseman is listed as 5'10". Now I can't find the reach for either fighter online, but to me both guys look of a similar size. Physically, both guys are pretty similar. Now going into this fight, I do make Ted Cheeseman a sizable favourite, to be honest. Traditionally, both of these guys are seen as kind of crash bang wallop fighters. Both guys like to come forwards, apply pressure, and throw big shots. Both of these guys are looking to do damage. To me though, when you look at both fighters, I think one fighter out of these two has hit their ceiling, and I don't see him getting any better, whereas the other guy, I feel, does actually have room for improvement in his game. Now, the guy I don't see getting any better is Sam Eggington. I think he's kind of plateaued now. I don't think he's going to get any better, but I do feel Ted Cheeseman has more natural ability, and potentially he could get better. I have to say, going into this fight, I do feel Sam Eggington is a fairly big underdog, to be honest. Like I said, ultimately I just see Sam Eggington as a guy who is far more one-dimensional out of the two. He basically does the same thing every fight. He'll come forwards with very little regard for defence, and he'll try and walk you down and fire those big shots off, He'll try and really get on top of you, make the most of his size and strength. He'll try and work that body and basically drag you into a dogfight and take you out late on. That's really what Sam Eggington does each fight. I've never really seen any development from Sam Eggington, and we've seen that in his losses, A lot of his losses are similar. He got completely destroyed against Liam Smith, showed very little in regard to defence, got completely taken apart. He got destroyed against Hassan Rankinho, again another guy who took advantage of Sam Eggington's bad defence. He got schooled by Mohamed Mamoune a few years ago, completely outboxed, and also in 2016 he got completely outboxed by Bradley Skeet. So we've seen guys take advantage of Sam Eggington's poor defence and, also his lack of boxing ability. We've seen him completely destroyed and we've seen him completely outboxed. And going into this fight with Ted Cheeseman, I actually think Ted Cheeseman has the ability to do either or. I think he can go in there, be aggressive, be like a front foot boxer puncher, and take Eggington out with his superior offense, his superior timing and counter-punch ability. Or alternatively, I could see Ted Cheeseman just boxing on the back foot, playing it a bit more safe than usual, and outpointing Sam Eggington that way. I think he's got the ability to outbox Eggington on the back foot. Now, we saw Ted Cheeseman try that against Scott Fitzgerald, and many people felt he won that fight. He certainly put up a really good account of himself and had some really good moments in that fight. If that same Ted Cheeseman comes in there against Eggington and boxes the same way, he will completely neutralise Eggington based off that boxing ability he showed in that fight. I really do believe that. But alternatively, if he does go back to his old style, coming forwards and throwing punches on the front foot, countering on the front foot, I could actually see him taking Eggington out in the mid-rounds. When you look at both fighters, I've just seen more versatility and more ability from Ted Cheeseman. Don't get me wrong, Ted Cheeseman has a lot of flaws. especially when he comes forwards. Defensively, he does leave a lot to be desired, and he can actually be outboxed himself. We saw that in the Sergio Garcia fight. He completely got shut out in that fight. Now, going forwards in the future, I actually think that loss will actually look a little less worse, to be honest, because I think Sergio Garcia certainly has the ability to challenge for a world title. I actually think that guy's really underrated, so that loss to Sergio Garcia, I wouldn't be too concerned. I wouldn't read too much into it going into this fight. And the loss to Scott Fitzgerald, I mean, a lot of people felt he won that fight. It was certainly very close. So Ted Cheeseman's only really got one clear loss on his resume, whereas Eggington has been beat numerous times in different ways. And all in all, I just feel Ted Cheeseman has a higher ceiling than Sam Eggington. And I just feel he's the more naturally talented fighter all around. Both guys have actually taken a fair bit of punishment in their career so far, and both guys are pretty young. But I've got to be honest, if we're looking at who's the fresher in this fight, I would say Ted Cheeseman. Eggington has been on the end of some beatings in his career. And again, no real defense. He's really racked up the punishment over the years. So maybe also you have to consider what both guys have left in the tank. And if I were to hazard a guess, I would say Ted Cheeseman has more in the tank than Eggington. And again, I mentioned the defense for both fighters. Both fighters don't have good defense, but for me, Ted Cheeseman has shown far greater durability. I mean, he took an absolute beating against Sergio Garcia, and he wasn't going anywhere. He took some heavy shots from Scott Fitzgerald, and took them quite well. Also took some heavy shots against Carson Jones, again, took them quite well. So another area where I think Ted Cheeseman is actually better is the chin department, and given what type of fight this could be, that could be very important. All in all, I'm just really struggling to see how Sam Eggington wins this fight, if I'm being honest. I just feel for Eggington to win this fight, Ted Cheeseman really needs to be having an off night. He needs to be unfocused, and he needs to be found wanting, but I can't see that happening here. I think Ted Cheeseman's going into this fight very motivated after that loss to Scott Fitzgerald. He felt very hard done by in that fight, and I think he's going to want to prove a point here, because for Cheeseman, a loss here really would be detrimental to his career, and I just feel he's going to come out there and try to make a statement. I think he'll be switched on, and ultimately, I think he'll have too much for Sam Eggington. The only thing to consider, I mentioned about him having an off night. Ted Cheeseman has had some well-documented problems outside the ring. If he's distracted by something like that, maybe Eggington could have a chance, but I'm reaching. I really struggle to see Eggington winning this fight. But share your thoughts on this fight. Who are you picking, and how do you think they're going to win? Also on this card, you've got a couple of other good fights to keep your eye out for. You've got James Tennyson versus Gavin Gwynn. That is for the vacant British lightweight title. I fully expect James Tennyson to win that fight, but Gavin Gwynn's a half-decent fighter. I felt he put up a good account of himself for when he fought Joe Cordina for that very same title, so decent fight, but I expect James Tennyson to beat Gavin Gwynn. You've also got Jordan Gill coming back. He's fighting Reece Bellotti. Decent comeback fight for Jordan Gill, but I expect him to have too much for Reece Bellotti. Bellotti really is limited, to be honest, and I expect it to go a few rounds, but Jordan Gill should have too much. You've also got a pretty interesting heavyweight fight. Fabio Wardley, he's a young prospect, he's 8-0. He is fighting Simon Vallily for the English heavyweight title. That's a fight I'm interested in. I expect Fabio Wardley to win that fight. Simon Vallily historically was a cruiserweight. He's coming up from cruiserweight. Had a few fights now at heavyweight, but I expect Fabio Wardley to beat Vallily. If Fabio Wardley is anything, ultimately he should be knocking out Vallily. Let's be honest about it. But half decent card by Matchroom. A good first card back. No real complaints from me. So there you go. That is my prediction for Sam Eggington versus Ted Cheeseman, and a brief rundown on the undercard. Share your thoughts below. What do you make of the main event? Who's going to win? And also share your thoughts on the undercard as well. Much appreciated. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Smash the like, hit subscribe, all of that good stuff. Peace.